Hello and warm welcome to Topical Tuesday. I'm Wangmo with the program. In today's edition, you can listen to Build Bhutan Project, which was launched recently in the country. Well, to talk on this, I'm joined by His Excellency, the Minister of Labour and Human Resources, Lyonpo Dorji. A very warm welcome to our show, Lyonpo. Well, Lyonpo, first of all, what is Build Bhutan Project all about?
Firstly, thank you, Tshering, for having me here on this program, and Kuzampo to all the listeners, people of Bhutan. Build Bhutan Project is part of the Economic Contingency Plan that the government has come up with in response to the coronavirus pandemic that has wreaked havoc on our economy, on our lives, on our livelihoods, jobs in the country. So it's a major part, in fact, the most important component of the Economic Contingency Plan that the government has come up with. Now, what is it about? Where did it come from, the idea of the Build Bhutan Project? Yes, it has affected lives, although we haven't really lost lives to the coronavirus pandemic in Bhutan as yet. But the impact on our economy has been particularly very bad. Firstly, because of the restrictions imposed on the entry of tourists, thousands of people working in the tourism and hospitality sector has lost their source of livelihood, income. On the other hand, because of the closure of the border gates from the south, thousands of the foreign laborers could not come inside the country, and therefore the construction sector is facing an acute shortage of laborers. Therefore, the construction activities are at standstill right now. Two major sectors of the economy, construction and tourism, has been severely impacted by this. While there's hardly anything we can do with regard to the coming of the tourists into the country, I think we can do something when it comes to meeting the gap in terms of the workforce in the construction sector. So that is where we saw the opportunity, a window of opportunity in the middle of the difficulties brought about by the pandemic. So the idea of Bhutan Project really is to firstly give the livelihood earning opportunities to those who have been affected, in the sense who have been laid off or who are on unpaid leave or who are on the reduced pay. It's an opportunity for them to engage productively in carrying out the building construction activities. Yes. So Build Bhutan really is about literally building Bhutan by engaging in the construction activities. But it is also an idea that is much larger, that goes beyond just building Bhutan in terms of being engaged in the construction activities, building the roads, bridges, buildings with our own hands. It's also an idea that calls for every people in the country to come forward and to save our economy, because it's about our economy. Construction is just one concrete idea of Build Bhutan. Even literally, the title Build Bhutan Project fits the construction activity. But it's beyond that, even in other sectors, in agriculture, in other retail sector, manufacturing sector. In all these areas, if our Bhutanese people come together, build our own things, and come together to show our strength and save the economy to the extent possible, then that way we are really making our country stronger, saving our economy, and thereby fighting with whatever tools we have to keep our livelihoods, lives, and the happiness going on in this country. So Build Bhutan is about serving the nation, coming together to build Bhutan and emerge stronger from this coronavirus pandemic.
But how is this project going to function, and how will it benefit literally?
Okay. So what we are trying to do is provide livelihood opportunities to those who have been laid off, to provide workforce to meet the shortage of labor in the construction sector. Now, how is it really going to be implemented? What does it really entail? Under the Build Bhutan Project, we are thinking of two categories of people. One, those who are already skilled, certified, national certification under the Department of Occupational Standards, under my ministry, a department which certifies their skills. They're already a group of workforce who are skilled. We want to incentivize them to come to the construction sector and come to the rescue of this sector when we have shortage of skilled laborers from outside the border. That is one category. The other category of people who will be engaged under this Build Bhutan Project is those who may not really have been engaged in the construction sector and therefore wouldn't have the skills required to do the work in the construction sector. Yes. Even for them, we are giving an opportunity. They can be engaged as unskilled workers, whereby they don't really require skills. But from amongst them, if there are people, those of them who are willing to take up skilling, because to be able to do the work productively in a way that benefits both the contractors and the workers themselves, I think you will have to be skilled. For this group of people, we are offering a skilling pathway, whereby they will go to the technical training institutes across the country, spend about 1 to 2 months there, get a basic foundational crash course, and take up those skills, the learnings from the institute, and practice it on the job training. After a few months, they will be given an opportunity to sit for an assessment. If they make through that assessment, they will be certified. And once they are certified, their income, the salary automatically goes up. For example, for the unskilled workers, the employers under this Build Bhutan project are required to pay only 12,000 per month. But once you are certified with National Certification 2 or National Certificate 3, your salary will immediately go up from 12,000 to 15,000. And the government will correspondingly top up 25% of the salary. So that easily takes your salary
on this 15,000?
Yes, on this 15,000.
Yes.
So that easily takes your salary to 18,750, which is a really attractive package going by the record that we have so far. So that leads to the other important strategy that we have come up with under this Build Bhutan. We don't want our people to be paid as low as just 400 a day, especially our younger people, educated ones, coming to the forefront and willing to be engaged in the construction sector. We want to incentivize. We want to rather encourage them to come here and then reward them with the 25% top up from the government side. So 3,000 from the government side, 12,000 from the employer side, even for the unskilled laborers, 15,000 is the package. So through the attractive pay package, that is one of the important strategies. There are a few other important strategies, like if you look at the construction sector today, all we see is the foreign laborers who are not very protected, working in very unsafe working environment, without insurance, without personal protective equipments, without decent accommodation or food. That is the image that conjures up in our mind the moment we talk about construction. So we don't want the younger generation of Bhutanese to really go through that kind of plight. So we are providing them free personal protective equipments, including headgear, safety boots, reflector vest, work dress, something that we have never done before. So we want to reward them by giving them this. But it doesn't end there. We want to also give them the Provident Fund scheme that we have instituted in collaboration with the National Pension and Provident Fund for the first time. Even in the private sector, that's very rare. But now we are starting off from the construction sector. We want to ensure that our younger generation, our people who are engaged in the construction sector, once they finish this engagement in construction, once this COVID gets over and they want to move on to the other sectors, they have something to take home as a retirement income, and that will give them the social protection that we would have really badly needed during these pandemic times. And we did not have that. And then that is the lesson we are taking from this pandemic and instituting that from them, which other private sector employers will not enjoy for now, at least. In the coming years, that will be instituted. But for now, we are starting off with the construction sector. So that is a very attractive incentive scheme for all our younger generation to be enrolled in. That Provident Fund scheme is a portable one, whereby enrolling yourself into this PF scheme, you are not really obliged to stay with one employer forever. You can move from one employer, even within the construction sector, from one employer to the other employer. You can carry on this with you.
But he has to be with the same under the same company.
Yes, not under the same company.
Under the
you
same
can
project,
change your employers. Yes,
under the same Build project.
Yes, under the Build Bhutan project. But even after Build Bhutan project, the project is only for 2 years, at least for now. And even after 2 years, once this project gets over, someone who has enrolled himself or herself into this PF scheme can carry this over to other employers. Say, a tour guide who have engaged himself under the Build Bhutan project for 2 years, skilled, he has this PF account. Now, once the tourism bounces back, if he wants to go back to his former employer, the travel company, he can go there and then still take this PF scheme with him and then continue with the employer there.
That means nothing will affect his PF.
Yes. So it's a very portable scheme, and this is going to have a real long-term benefit for whoever is enrolling in this. So this is a very unique scheme that we have come up with. But it doesn't end there again. We are also talking about other strategies, like, say, we want to mechanize the construction industry. Like basic traditional hand tools, we can't really expect in the 21st century labor market. We can't expect our people to be just stuck with those traditional tools. So we want to provide incentives in terms of direct subsidies, in terms of the policy support, in terms of whatever that we can do to encourage our people to work with the machines and to basically give them exposure to this mechanization of the industry itself, so that productivity and efficiency goes up and therefore the number of laborers required comes down. So that is one other objective, the strategy that we are using. But the real lasting strategy that we are talking about is the formation of a specialized firms, whereby our skilled workers with expertise in different trades like electrical, plumbing, masonry, carpentry, people with skills in the same trade come together, form a company, and therefore they take up all these works like prefab windows, prefab doors. Say plumbing is very difficult to find plumbers in the local market. So the plumbers will come together and form a specialized firm, and therefore wherever plumbing services are required, they will go around, just like the BPC would go around with this electrification thing. These people would go around providing those services. So that way, we do not really have to rely on skilled workers from abroad. because we would then have many specialist firms catering to services in construction trade, in other trades, in great many numbers. So if we can manage to build that kind of a workforce, then I think much of the labor requirement, the skills requirement in the market will be solved. So that is the longer term objective that we have. So that once the COVID gets over, even if we were to allow the foreign workers to come inside in our country in large numbers, we want to allow them to come only in the low skilled category, not in the skill category. We want our Bhutanese people to not only pick up skills, but to continue taking up the skill jobs, which are much more prestigious, gives them better income. And then basically we want them to be the boss in the construction sector once this pandemic gets over. And we will continue to take advantage of the cheap laborers from across the border. So that is the vision of reducing our reliance on the foreign laborers and realizing our goal of self-reliance in terms of the labor requirement.
Lyonpo, the project seems that it's focusing more on to provide employment for those unemployed and for those who are laid off. So is it open for those in service also if they are interested? Like it need not necessarily they have to be under this construction field.
Firstly, about this project being seen as an intervention from the government side to encourage employment in the construction sector, I think there's nothing wrong in that, but I'd rather like people to see this as an opportunity for people to come together and serve the nation, because right now our economy is badly hit because of this pandemic. And then the two biggest sectors are construction and the tourism sector. In the construction sector, the biggest problem is the shortage of labor. Now, in order for us to save our economy, you can do that by saving the construction sector, which is suffering from the shortage of labor. Is there where the gap is there where the opportunity is. You go there, get this construction activities going, keep the economy going, keep our lives and livelihoods going, and make our economy stronger. That way you're saving the economy. And about making our country stronger, you can talk about other things if the economy itself is weak. So this is a real opportunity to serve. Just like you'd serve by volunteering for Desung, other volunteer works that you are doing, people are doing already. This, in fact, is even a better opportunity, because by engaging yourself in this sector, you're not only getting your livelihood, your employment, you're not only getting the income, but also you're contributing to nation building when your contribution is needed the most. The reason I'm not emphasizing so much on this as an avenue for employment is because you will have people with university degrees, with master's degree qualifications, people who have grown up with better aspirations, people who want better than just being engaged in the construction sector. I don't want them to see this as the dead end in their life. I want to see this as just an interim measure during the COVID pandemic, where it's difficult for them to find jobs that they have always aspired for. But at the same time, take this as an opportunity to make a living and then contribute in ways that you would not be able to do by just staying home and doing nothing and burdening the government in terms of if you are among the laid off or if you are among the unemployed, rather than being a burden to your society, your families or the government, in terms of the kidus that you receive. We are already going into the 6th month now. How long can you just stay like that and do nothing for the country? It's time that you start asking yourself what you can do for the country, not what a country can do for you.
But Lyonpo,
okay, I've not answered your question, I know. So the more specific question that you're asking me is who all are eligible to enroll under this? For you to be eligible to enroll in this project, you'll have to be an overseas returnee, you'll have to be unemployed, or you'll have to be laid off or on leave without pay, and you'll have to be class 10 and above, except for those who have been laid off and have been COVID affected, as can be verified from the KIDU data, the data that has been kept with the KIDU system that is being implemented. So we will take that data from there, and for them exceptions can be there in terms of the qualifications that they need to have. But otherwise, for the overseas returnees and the unemployed, you will have to be class 10 qualifications and above. We will start from there. But that's not to say that we will make it totally impossible for people with lower qualifications to join this project. As we implement this, if the project is successful, we will review our procedures, we will review our eligibility guidelines, and then open it up even for without qualification and people from other areas other than the criteria that I have outlined before.
But Lyonpo, do you think that the unemployed youth will be willing to take up this project? Because in previous years, this is the least sector they opt for, this construction sector. Despite all this attractive package, do you think they will opt for this project?
I think that question comes from the assumption, rather a stereotype, that our Bhutanese youth, the younger generation, nothing but a burden to the society and the government. That somehow these people are good for nothing, doesn't think of anyone, and doesn't take up responsibility. That is the stereotype and the assumption with which people ask that sort of a question. And I'm not saying that you're wrong in asking that, because that is the mentality among our society. That's how the society views us. But I would like to differ. I would like to look at our younger generation as an asset, as the future of our country. They're in great numbers. They've grown up in a totally different world where technology, globalization is rampant. They grow up with different expectations, different ideas, and they have their own strengths. It's just that we have not been able to leverage those strengths for the betterment of our society, the economic development, and the nation building. So I think this is exactly the time when we should work with them. We should now stop looking at them as a burden, start looking at them, encouraging them rather, to come forward, join hands, and contribute towards nation building, because this is a rare opportunity that the history gives us, this generation of Bhutanese population, to come forward and do their bit in terms of building the nation, leaving their mark in terms of making the history of the country. I have no doubt that our younger generation will realize that, but that's not just based on the blind optimism that I'm sounding out right now. It's also based on the ground interactions with hundreds of younger generation over the past few months. I've been to Sipsu, for example, 2 months ago as a chief guest for the Desung graduation ceremony down there. Of the 234 who were graduating from the Desung group, 50% of them were unemployed youth, people as young as 20 years old. They're volunteering their service to serve as a Desup without expecting a single penny as their salary. If our younger generation can come forward and join Desu and then are ready to serve the nation at the border, I don't think it should be an issue for them to just come join the construction sector, get skilled, contribute their bit to the economy, make their living, and therefore reduce the burden on the government and the state in terms of feeding them and in terms of helping them out. The help has to be two-way. So far, because of the benevolence of His Majesty the King, these people, thousands of them, have been lucky enough to get this relief kidu. But now it is time for them to come forward and then start doing what they can. Until and unless we do that, I think the country cannot become stronger. So I have no doubt, and as is evident from the numbers that have registered with us, we have some 1,000 of our younger generation who have registered with the project just in the last 6 days of its launching. So I have no doubt that our younger generation will come up. I have no doubt that our society will support them. I have no doubt that our contractors, those in the construction sector, give all that they can to encourage these people, to work with them, to build our economy, specifically the construction sector.
And Lyonpo, one of the main reasons to come up with this project is to provide employment for the unemployed and then the lack of foreign workers with this global pandemic. So what about the foreign workers? Do we still have some of the workers here engaged here?
We do have.
And what will happen
thousands
with
of them? We do have thousands of them. We would like them to stay with us, work in the construction sector for, especially during this pandemic period. We're doing our best to encourage them to stay back. But despite those efforts, as you might have read in the newspapers, as you might have heard from other people, hundreds of them want to go back. And this is a very sad scenario for us. And this fact gives us even more reason to be more patriotic and rise to the occasion, our younger generation, to come to the rescue of our construction sector at a time when our foreign laborers are not able to come in the first place. And even among those who are inside the country are threatening to leave us. This is the time they must rise to the occasion, come to the rescue of our economy and save the economy of our country. Normally, around this time of the year, we require about at least 50,000. But the number that we have right now is about 26,000 foreign laborers in the country. So we are short by almost 50% from the usual figure that we require. So the shortage is at least 25,000, theoretically speaking. Yes. The ground reality could be a little different, but not vastly different from what I'm theorizing here. So those who are here will continue to work, but those who want to leave, they will have to be allowed to leave. And those people who are willing to come in from across the border, who are outside the border, but who are willing to come in. Now, you might have heard about the government's notification allowing the skilled professionals and workers to come in. We are facilitating that, but we can bring in only so much and so many in terms of numbers, because we are talking about the quarantine facilities down there, medical protocols in terms of having to go through several rounds of COVID tests. And the cost will have to be borne by the employers and the employees themselves. And that itself is going to be very costly and serve as a hindrance for them. Not doing this to discourage them from coming in or from employers from accessing them from across the border, but because of the real necessity to really prevent the risks of COVID from coming in and spreading in the community, which will be the worst thing that we can imagine, that something that we do not want to imagine. So under all this very difficult circumstances and situations, the only best option that we have is to mobilize workforce from the local market, and which we already have in abundant supply anyway, coincidentally.
Lyonpo, it is said that the project is going to absorb 7,000 of
That's the minimum we are talking
yes,
about.
unemployed workers.
Yes.
So is it possible to absorb immediately?
If you have read the project document, it's over the 2 years.
Or less?
It's over the 2 years. So we are hopeful that 7,000 is the least that we are targeting. We are expecting people to turn up even in bigger numbers. We want to have maybe 10, 20,000 if all of them turns up, because this is really important. And I hope all the people will realize this. So I have no doubt that we'll be able to mobilize this number. We're not forcing them, but we are encouraging them, giving them an option. And if they identify with the objective, the goal that we have in mind, I think there's no reason why the people shouldn't spare about 1 to 2 years to work in the construction sector when the country is in need, when they themselves need the livelihood earning opportunities.
As Lyonpo said, the project is providing opportunities both for skilled and unskilled.
Yes.
So is there any differences between the salary or the
Yes,
benefits
there's a
for them?
difference. There's a difference. The skilled ones are certified. NC2, NC3, they're either technical graduates, civil engineers, electrical engineers. They are the skilled ones. For them, the floor wage, rather the basic salary that the employers are required to pay them, differs from according to their skill level. For the unskilled, we are requesting the employers to pay a minimum of 12,000 per month. For the NC2 certified, National Certificate 2, we are requesting the employers to pay them 15,000. So the difference is 3,000 right there. Then for the NC3, we are requesting the employers to pay 16,500. For the diploma holders, 18,000. For the degree holders, 20,000. And on top of that, on a pro rata basis, the government will be topping up 25% as a wage subsidy, whoever is taking up this job. So your skill level matters. And that is why those who know that this pandemic is going to be there, at least for the next 1 to 2 years, for it to be completely over and for life to get back to normal, I think it will take at least 1 to 2 years. That's a long time. What are you going to do in this next 1 to 2 years? Build Bhutan Project provides you an opportunity to spend this time productively. If you want to directly be engaged in the construction sector, take up this unskilled workers job, fine. But those of you who really think deeper, you will find an incentive to take up the skilling pathway. Go to the institute for about 2 months, get the basic skills, go to work, get trained on the job where you'll be paid the normal salary as any other unskilled workers. And at the end of this on-the-job training period, you will be certified. And that can come as early as 6 months, depending on the certification schedule that we roll out. In 1 year's time, your salary is going to go up by 3,000 immediately. Once you are certified, immediately you will be earning 15,000 instead of 12,000. And then 25% of that 15,000, that's 3,750. Instead of the 3,000 you would be earning as a skill, which top of that you will be earning as an unskilled worker. So you have the incentive to get skilled. Now once the pandemic is over, once tourism bounces back and other sectors start booming, then you can also go back to those sectors if you find those sectors attractive. Nothing is going to bind you to the construction sector forever. Yes. All we are requesting you to do is spend this 1 to 2 years productively. It's good for you. And more than that, it is important for the economy, because our economy will have to keep running. If construction sector comes to a standstill, if tourism is not going to come there, except for agriculture, we hardly have any other thing. So this is the time you should stop looking at this construction as a job that you are not trained for, educated for, something that you will not be there forever, and it's not your duty. This mindset will have to go away. A transformation of mind will have to happen. Unless that happens, this nation is only going to get weaker. The pandemic, as His Majesty himself has been leading at the forefront, when the state, under the leadership of His Majesty, the King, can do that much for the country, we should seriously start asking ourselves what we can do for the country. Country has done enough. We will continue to do. But now that we have been given a breathing space in terms of this few months, in terms of if you have businesses, if your employees were laid off, you all had this opportunity to think, to settle down, and to reflect on how you can contribute. If you continue to just depend on the skidoo and forever expect that things will just fall from the sky like rain, and especially during this pandemic, I think that is a very sad thinking and assessment that people can have. When we say that the economy is doing badly, we're basically talking about having to spend more than the usual times. But ironically, we're earning less. The revenue from the tourism sector and other sectors, the trading sector, it has gone down. And the country is really going through this problem in terms of the budgetary implications that it will have to face. So if you know about all these problems, the country's problems, the economies, the societies, and your own problem, you will come forward. And I urge everyone listening to this, if you are not coming forward yourself, at least encourage those who are coming forward. And then encourage more people to come forward. Let's make this a movement. Let's make this moment a time in history where all the nation, the younger generation, the educated generation, changed their mind and started building the nation from the scratch. And then once the pandemic is over, we are a stronger nation. We are less reliant on the foreign workers. And then if the COVID pandemic like this were to come again after several years, we are better prepared, stronger, and we can get going without relying on the outside resources.
In the wake of this pandemic, besides lack of foreign laborers, one more issue here is the raw materials of construction raw materials. So have you ever thought of it?
Yes, that is a bit of a problem, but it's not like we have totally stopped the import and export activities. We're importing the construction materials. The export and import facility will be there, although in a limited quantity and number. We may not be able to do it in the amount and the magnitude that we have done during usual times. But yes, that issue is there, but it's not something that could stop the construction activity from going in the construction sector. Much of the raw materials you can source from within the market with some adjustments, with some effort, with some incentives. It shouldn't be difficult for you to get most of the construction materials from within the country.
Limpopo, you have been mentioning about the registration of this project. So
Yes.
if you could elaborate on how should one register for this project?
Okay, so the first thing that you'll have to do is to visit the Ministry of Labour and Human Resources website, mlsr.gov.pt. There you'll find a link to register for this project, Build Bhutan Project. There are two ways you can register. Registration for the employees. The other is the registration for the employers. The employers will have to give their details on their qualification, the duration of their availability, their background in terms of skills and the qualification, the kind of work, the trade that they want to be engaged in, if they're to be directly engaged as an unskilled worker, if they want to take up a skilling pathway that I have elaborated on earlier. In which area of skilling? Is it masonry? Is it carpentry, electrical, plumbing, building painting, welding? All these areas that we have identified, and the courses are already there. You just have to opt one of these trades. So similarly, the employers will register. The employers will register how many workers they actually need, with what level of skills. How many masons do you need? How many carpenters do you need? How many unskilled workers do you need? So all these details will have to be provided by the employers. And they will have to tell us about what project are you taking up? Is it the bridge construction? Is it the building construction, road construction? How long is this project going to last? What is the size of the project? Where is this project located? And for how long are you going to engage these people? So all these requirements will have to be registered through that employer registration. One, employer registration. The other is employee registration. Once they have registered, then the project management unit within the Ministry of Labour and Human Resources will matchmake, will contact the employees and see, while it may not be able to get a perfect match, we hope that we'll be able to get at least 70 to 80% of them will be able to fit into each other's requirements easily. So once that matchmaking is done, then we inform the employers bring them together, and that engagement process or the skilling process starts from there. One is direct engagement, one is skilling. But besides that, we also register the interest, those people who are interested to form specialized groups, firms that I have talked about earlier on. And so if they express their interest to register as a specialized firm, then they also express their interest in that employee registration itself. Then we work with the Ministry of Works and Human Settlement in a construction development board to facilitate their registration as a specialized firm. And once they are registered as a specialized firm, we give them all the policy support, the skilling support, wage subsidy, all the support that is possible in the construction sector, because we look at them as entities that will take off from where the Build Bhutan would have ended.
Plus, Lyonpo, if you have any additional information.
I think I've said enough on this. I'm sure we will have more opportunities in the coming days, months, years to talk about this. I'm sure you will find this Build Bhutan project meaningful, something that's very important for the country, and will never be fed up of talking about this Build Bhutan project in your show. So I'm sure I'll have many more opportunities in the future. But still, the concluding remarks that I would like to make on this program is really with an appeal, the request to the whole of the people of Bhutan. These are unprecedented times. Like His Majesty himself put, a crisis of this magnitude may not come even in next century. It's really the crisis of our generation. You have two choices. One is to just leave it to His Majesty the King and the government and pretend as if it's not your duty to play your part, do your bit to protect this country. But the other way is to really look at this as an opportunity rather than as a risk, as a cloud. Look at this as a rainbow that you want to pursue and then ride on it. Because with every great crisis, there are opportunities. There may be other windows, but Build Bhutan Project is one very good window of opportunity that people must be able to see and therefore rally around. And then we start from there. As we go along, we'll find many other opportunities. And then let's build Bhutan in other sectors as well, not just in the construction sector. So this is not about just your lives. It's about the future of our country. It's about our economy. It's about serving the nation. It goes beyond the agenda of employment. It is about nation building. So I'm sure whole of Bhutan will come together and join us in building Bhutan together, because it's only when we work together that we are stronger. We will emerge stronger from this pandemic. Thank you very much for this.
Yes, thank you, Lyonpo. Well, that was His Excellency, the Minister of Labour and Human Resources, Ugyen Dorji, talking on Build Bhutan Project. Thank you for joining us, and I'm Wangmo signing out for now.